What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be taking a look at the Zowie V2. This has been long in development, so how does it stack up compared to everything else? And more importantly, is this going to be the perfect gaming mouse for you? Let's check it out. Before we get started, I did want to let you know that this was sent out to me by Zowie. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Included inside the box, you do get two USB-C cables. You get a little bit more of the stiffer one and then a little bit of this looser one, perhaps if you wanted to plug this in to your mouse and use it while gaming. It does come with the enhanced receiver. You also do get a smaller dongle and a dongle adapter if you don't want to play with the larger enhanced receiver. And then you also get some documentation here and an extra set of skates. I do recommend using the enhanced receiver as much as possible, as this does give you the most optimized wireless experience. And this also does come with a charging dock to charge the mouse. Taking a look at the bottom functionality over here, the power button in the bottom, if it's in the middle, it is powered off. You switch it over here to the right side to turn on the enhanced receiver, and then over here on the left if you prefer to use the smaller dongle. Then up here you do have your DPI button, and then over here to the left is where you can adjust the polling rate between 125 Hertz, 500 Hertz, and the 1000 Hertz polling rate. So far I've been really enjoying the overall skate design of the U2. I have no issues with it, and I do kind of prefer the bigger skates myself personally recently, but it did come with their typical standard black style skates. I did actually opt for these upgraded Ultra Glides to give it a little bit of a faster glide, and these really do feel great on here. The overall shell integrity and the coating on this thing have been absolutely flawless for me. I haven't noticed any type of bending. Even when I push really hard on the side walls, I'm not getting too much flex. I cannot activate the side buttons, and the coating on here is the same typical incredibly premium Zowie coating. It's very grippy and all around a joy to use. You do get some fingerprints on your mouse when you're using it quite a bit, but I don't mind it too much. It is pretty easy to wipe down and clean off if you really do care that much about the aesthetic. For mouse 1 and 2, they are using the incredibly popular Huano Blue Shell Pink Dots, the transparent version, and they really do feel incredible on here. One unique thing about this mouse, as I noticed when I was taking it apart, is you do unfortunately have to remove the top skate to access it, but it does have this 3 screw hole design up here at the top, and I was kind of confused by this. But as I was putting it back together, I did happen to tension the button over here on the right and the button over here on the left a little bit too tight, and I was actually not able to activate the clicks. So it became clear to me at that point that Zowie actually has this set up specifically so you can use these screw holes on the side to actually tension the buttons, and it did work perfectly. Again, if you were to tighten these down too much, you actually can't even activate the switch. It'll just stick. So I wasn't messing around with loosening these up, and I was able to tension them perfectly to my liking. So I was able to actually get an incredible tight response on them with basically nearly zero pre-travel and post-travel from where I activate the switch. The side-to-side play on here is minimal, practically non-existent, so very solid implementation on here. One issue that I've kind of had in the past with some Zowie mice is on this button design up here. As you can see, it's just one solid shell, so you can't actually activate the switch pretty far back. But with the overall shape of this mouse, it kind of does force you into a relaxed claw grip, which is how I like gripping and how I mostly grip anyways. And with the way that I was gripping the mouse, if I were to put any weight on it, it usually was around in this back hump area. So I never had a single issue when I was using this to where I would accidentally activate these clicks. So no issues there. And if you do come up in the front of the switch, you do get slightly just a little bit more play, but as you can see, I have them tensioned here pretty tightly to where just to play all around is non-existent. And then it does get a little harder to activate it near the rear, but again, I would say it's really solid and consistent clicking experience all around. The scroll on here is incredibly unique and it feels fantastic. It's a different design from most out there. As I was opening this up and examining it, taking a look at it, I was trying really hard to see if I can get stuck on the steps, and it's literally like nearly impossible to do that. It does have a pretty clicky scroll to it, but I do feel like it is a little bit lighter weight than previous Zowie mice that I've used. I'm not sure if it is the exact same or not. It just seems to be lighter than what I remember using. Not that I have used a lot of them recently. The click is nice and easy to actuate, very easy to spam. All around, I would say this is one of the best scroll wheels that I've ever used if not my favorite, and it feels great. I really do feel like they absolutely nailed it with the placement of these side buttons with how I was gripping it. They kind of feel like they're right where they should be. And when it comes to the implementation on these side buttons, if you were to push here from the back on the rear, you do get some play. However, I do want to mention that this kind of curves in, and again, the way that this mouse is shaped, I never once actually activate it from the sides. I kind of always activate it towards the front up here. And you do notice when you do get more towards the front, in the middle towards the front, there's like literally like almost no play, very minimal pre-travel, and the post-travel feels incredible as well. As you can see, not any type of wobbling there on the switch itself. And same thing with this front side button. Very minimal to practically no play, almost no pre-travel, very minimal post-travel, and again, just all around a incredibly solid experience. The one thing I kind of do wish that was on here, even though I didn't have an issue with activating the wrong side button, I do kind of wish they left a little bit more of a gap in there, but again, that's just personal preference. So everything about the feeling in hands and the functionality of this mouse really does feel next level. So let's go ahead and drop a click and a quality sound check. And when it comes to the weight and balance, perfect front to back and left to right. And with these aftermarket skates on here, on my scale, I am getting approximately 62.6 grams. There still is no software for this mouse, and you can reference to the user manual to be able to access things. Like this does have motion sync. You can turn it on or off with the 33.95 sensor that comes in here. You can also adjust the liftoff distance, and it doesn't really specify any type of a click to bounce setting. There is just a normal mode and a high speed mode. So in order to enable the high speed mode, you just hold down on the rear side button and turn the mouse on, and the DPI button will change an indicator going blue first before it turns to green colorway. And then if you were to want the normal click setting, you just hold the front side button and turn it on, and it will start out with that green colorway. And with the fast response time enabled, I did run some testing here, and as you can see, the numbers are a little bit on the higher end compared to some of the other gaming mice out there. And yes, absolutely, I did notice this immediately once I did hook it up and start playing with it. So I did kind of have to adjust for my timing on my shots. Immediately out of the box, when I did pick this up in the hands, I did notice how it felt pretty different and unique from just about everything out there. I wasn't too sure about how I was going to feel about it just looking in the pictures, due to the fact that it kind of does have this wide flare over here on the rear, and it does kind of have these curves up here towards the front. But I must say that the feeling of this in the hands and the grooves that they put on here really are different and unique. And this is kind of one of those mice where the more you use it, the more you start enjoying it, and the more you really start to appreciate the amount of detail and thought process that went in here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is my grip. I kind of use a relaxed claw grip. I do kind of feel like this mouse kind of forces you to use a relaxed claw grip. That's kind of what it's designed for. And it's really crazy to me how comfortable it feels. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Once you actually do hold this in the hands, the way that your thumb just sits right here in this thumb groove, it doesn't feel like it's too angled, like it's too unnatural. It just kind of just sits in there very comfortably. When I was playing high speed, fast-paced tracking games, it's just really easy, the way that this is balanced and the way that it is shaped, to just kind of move the mouse around freely, and it really does feel stable. So starting out, let's go ahead and throw it up against the Logitech G Pro Superlight 2. On the bottom profile, the way the U2 kind of curves in, it kind of curves inwards from the front and to the rear to kind of centralize your hands, and the overall grip width of the U2 is a bit more narrow. Looking at both of these from the rear, the G Pro Superlight is a little bit more rounded at the top, and it does kind of taper off down the sides more aggressively, where on the U2 it does feel a little bit more flat. And when it comes to the side profile, the U2 has more of that rear style hump. And next up, when comparing it to the Fantech Helios 2 Pro, though the Helios 2 is basically a clone of the S2, both of these shapes really are not that far apart from one another. Looking down here on the bottom profile, when I stack these together, the overall width of these is very similar. The Helios 2 might feel like it's just slightly a little bit wider, but I do kind of feel like the Helios does feel a little bit flatter towards the front, where you do get a little bit more of an aggressive curve up here to the front on the U2, but the rear curve profile on these, they do feel pretty similar to one another. There are some similarities where both of these kind of have that flat feeling up at the top, then tapering off out on the edges down here on the side. And just all around, the Helios 2 Pro does feel wider at the top of the mouse with this top curve profile compared to the U2. So when it comes to taking a look at both of these from the side, on the top of the U2 it does feel a little bit more narrow, and the height, it does feel like it's a little bit taller over the Helios 2 Pro, but these two shapes really are not incredibly far apart from one another. All right, and then finally, when stacking it up against the Ninjutso Sora version 2. Starting over on the bottom, the overall width and feeling of these in the hands are not incredibly far apart from one another. On the U2, you do have a much more aggressive flare out towards the rear, but the Ninjutso Sora 2, it does feel just slightly a little bit wider. The feeling over at the top is where these two stand apart, pretty different from one another. The Sora just overall tapers off to the sides much less aggressively, and you can definitely feel much wider gripping it at the top. And then finally, when it comes to looking at both these from the side, this is really where I learned to appreciate the shape and feeling of this U2, because it kind of dips in right here more, and it gives you a little bit more comfort for where you actually place your thumb, where on most mice that I use, it just kind of has this natural curve progression down here towards the front of the mouse. So even though the shape on this does feel really good, this is one of my favorite shapes, you do notice not having that thumb groove on where you have the U2, but the height profile on both of these, the Sora does feel just a little bit more flat. Alright guys, so that about wraps things up on the Zowie U2. The time and effort that they put into developing this, I really do feel like this shape stands out. There is just that one thing that is kind of missing from this mouse, unfortunately, and that is a higher polling rate, 4K, and a little bit of lower click latency. Again, the shape of this, the way that it games and feels in your hand is just incredibly comfortable. Even if I'm just editing videos or something like that, this thing has been just all around great in general to use. All right guys, so if you have any questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.